leading into the Olympics, guys, it hasn't been about the celebration. It's been more about the controversy. And, of course, the Zika virus and contaminated water, a myriad of issues as we head into the games. But what are you most looking forward to in Rio, Ryan?
You know, for me, even when you first started hearing all the things and just terrible things about the Olympics being in Rio, just unsanitary water and body parts washing up on the beach, people being kidnapped. And I was sitting there with Mike, and I was saying, you know, somebody should take a stand and people shouldn't go. And we've got so caught up in who's not going, what pro golfer decides he's not going to be there, what basketball player decides he's not going to be there. We've forgotten about the people who play sports and who grow up training to do things just to go to the Olympics, that don't really have the option of saying, I'm not going to go there and compete in my event because I'm going to stay home and do something that I get paid money to do. You look at Morlikea Kinnison, she tweeted 5 years ago in 2011 that she'll be graduating from school in 2016 and preparing to go to the Olympics. So for somebody like her, when there's all these people saying, stand up, take a stand, don't go, for somebody like her, there is no tomorrow. There is no promise of another chance. You do age out of being able to be in top physical shape to get there. So for me, I'm excited to watch her get an opportunity to do what she's always dreamed of doing. And in that, do you hope when she gets an opportunity to speak up for fellow athletes, and when she gets a stage to say that these things need to be changed for these athletes who only have the Olympics to look forward to, you hope that she does. Simone Biles, who's probably more the pride of Columbus, Ohio right now than Urban Meyer is, for her to get an opportunity to dominate in gymnastics, for her to get an opportunity to represent her country because she's prepared for this her whole life. There were times, you know, she wasn't going to regular school with her friends, and she wasn't getting opportunities to do things that we did as kids because she's been preparing for this. So for her to get an opportunity to shine, for the world to get to see her do what she does better than anybody else. And then I'm also looking forward to a guy like a Michael Phelps, who you say every year, you know, hey, he's probably not going to go back, or this is going to be his last Olympics, or he won't be as good. To be going to his 5th Olympics and get an opportunity to get another gold medal to add to the 18 that he already has. I know there's so much negativity surrounding these Olympics, and I think those things need to be talked about. Those things need to be changed. But for the people that do go, for the people who have trained for this for their whole lives, I'm excited to see them get their opportunity and then hopefully get their platform to change things.
I appreciate your position. It's very touching. I'm not touched because I'm not looking forward to anything about the Olympics. I am a guy that firmly believes that the Olympics should not be in Brazil. I am a guy who firmly believes that the athletes shouldn't be there. I am a guy who firmly believes that there is legitimate reason to fear the residual impact that could potentially last a lifetime because of how insidious those circumstances are that they are in at this particular moment. Of course, I'm looking forward to the young lady in performing in gymnastics, the pride of Columbus, Ohio. Of course, I'm looking forward to seeing Michael Phelps because he's in a swimming pool, even though not so much because the water's got to come from somewhere. What the hell are they going to do? Import it from the middle of the Pacific or something like that and just pour it into the pool? I don't know how they're going to get that water there, but if chances are if the water is coming from anywhere in Brazil, I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to him swimming in the water, even though it's the pool. Let's take into account that and understand that while Ryan Clark makes incredible points that any human being with a heart should empathize with, particularly on the part of these athletes who wait 4 years to be in these ideal positions to compete. There are times like it's almost like, let's say, for example, if, you know, there was a competition and it was in Yemen. Would you look forward to it then, or would you be worried as hell that ISIS or Al-Qaeda or somebody that could get access to these athletes? Those are the concerns that I have. Those are the reasons why I feel the way that I feel, because let's take into account, let's be very, very clear in front of this national television audience how serious these issues are. You have the Zika virus where they're giving out condoms to make sure nobody is doing stuff for crying out loud. Okay, and if you're doing something, you're protecting yourself. That's number one. You've got water that was considered the equivalent of raw sewage Does anybody understand what that means?
How
When
sick
you
you
go
could get.
home, when you go home to take a bath, to take a shower, to drink some water, of course, those are not conditions under which you would do it, but we're asking athletes to go to Brazil and perform under those conditions in some situations. You have corruption, obviously. Why is the corruption relevant to Olympic competition? Because Brazil is one of those nations that literally shares their borders with 10 different countries. And so as a result, it's considered prime meat for terrorists, nationwide and abroad, of course. So if that's bad enough, but then when you're corrupt, then how much is security a priority? Don't think for one second that the athletes that represent the United States of America aren't living on a cruise ship by accident. They're there for a reason, because we understand that these are some trying circumstances here. And so when you walk into the games with these kind of concerns, to me that usurps our feelings of nostalgia, affection, or whatever you want to throw out there about these Olympic athletes. I am not rooting against them, of course. I want them to go out there and perform. I want them to be happy, but more importantly, I want them to be safe and come home healthy. And because that is a huge question mark, I find myself not looking forward to these Olympics because I'm too concerned about the too many multitude of circumstances that exist around there. And I find myself incredibly perplexed as to why folks couldn't come together and find a different place for these games to be played. Because we can sit up there and talk about how much we're looking forward to these athletes all we want to in terms of their performance. Let something happen and then watch what we'll be asking ourselves then. I understand in some people's eyes it may be a cynical perspective, but my God, if ever there was a time for them to be justified, it is these Olympics, because the problems that I've heard they're walking into, I have never seen nor heard of these multitude of problems awaiting our Olympians to this degree, ever.
I agree with all of those things, but when you're talking about the athlete, sometimes athletes need to be protected from themselves. If we decided as a country, you know what's going on in Brazil, we're not going at all. That means basketball, track, gymnastics, none of those people are going. Then if you're an athlete, I've now taken it out of your hands. All this work you've done, you have no choice but to stay here because we're not going. But when you tell them, we're still going, we are still going to compete. These athletes have it in themselves to go compete. I've trained to compete. We're going as a country. I'm going. It's the same way Coach Tomlin had to stop me from playing in Denver.
I got it, and I understand. I don't disagree with that point. My last point is I don't disagree with that point, Ryan. I'm simply saying I'm not talking about the United States of America. I'm talking about all the nations coming together. They should have forced these Olympics to be in a different locale. That's my point.
100% with you. Just, of course, we don't know the logistics of that. You mentioned basketball. You got to see Draymond, Clay, KD play together for the first time. And speaking of KD, his relationship with Russell Westbrook apparently taking a turn for the worse. We will discuss it when we come back on First Take. More from Bucks Camp. Stay here.